Story time of how I caught my grandma and my dad sleeping together. Yes, you heard me right, my dad was sleeping with my grandma. Sadly, I had to be the one to find this out and walk in on them doing the dirty, and it was probably the most traumatizing experience I've ever had. So basically, my dad told my mom that he had to start working late to get extra money, because at the time we weren't doing so good money-wise. So basically, a couple months go by, and my mom said he started acting really, really weird, and then asked me to keep an eye on him and see if he's, doing anything strange. So you know me, the best daughter in the world, kept an eye on him, and I didn't find much out. Until one day, after I came home from school, I got locked out of my house because I didn't have my key, and both of my parents were so called at work. So I told my mom, and she works an hour away, so she couldn't come get me. And so I just had a friend drop me off at my grandma's house. So I tried calling my grandma, but she didn't answer, so I decided I was just gonna go anyways. I go through the back door like I always do, and I wanted to sneak up on her and give her a hug. So I try to be as quiet as I can, and I walk in the room and see my grandma and my dad butt naked on the bed. I'm running out of time. Late for part 2. Story time of how my best friend got so weirdly obsessed with me that she even plotted to kill my boyfriend. So at the time, me and this girl, let's just call her Olivia, had only been friends for about 2 years. I mean, we really did everything together. We were with each other 24/7, and we were pretty good friends. But the only thing about our friendship is she did not like when I had other friends. She didn't have any other friends herself, but literally she would joke around about strangling my other friends because she didn't like when I gave my attention to anyone else. But honestly, I just thought of it as a joke. And then I started dating this guy, let's just name him Jacob. He was probably the sweetest guy I had ever met, and he was a real simp for me. So we started dating, and about 4 or 5 months go by, and he started getting these texts from a random number. And it would always be cringy things like leave her or you die, get away from her, and stupid cringy threats. Then one night, me and him were just hanging out. Then he gets a text with his exact address saying he had till tonight to leave me, or he wouldn't see another day. Then we hear a knock at the door. I'm running out of time, late for part 2. Part 2 of how my best friend got so weirdly obsessed with me that she plotted to kill my boyfriend. So continuing with the story, we heard a knock at the door, and it ended up being her. And she said, "Oh, I'm just coming by to check on you, make sure you're okay." Mind you, we were at his house, and he looks at me like, what is she doing here? So I asked her to leave, and then she ends up getting so mad at me just because I asked her to give us alone time. So the night goes on, and then when I get home, she's in my room. At this time, my whole entire family was out of town, and I was the only one home. So I was like, hey. It was literally just like a normal night, and then I go to shower, and when I get back out of the shower, she's gone. And then my boyfriend calls me, and he goes, "Why is Maddie here?" She had this black mask on, but she's stupid enough to not realize that we know it's her. And we're being real here. She was my best friend at the time, so of course he's not going to call the police on her. But she had a knife in her hand, and he opens the door and he pins her against the wall and then calls 911, I guess. And then to sum it up, when they get there, she tells them everything that she was going to do, and then they put her in a mental hospital. But she said that she was going to murder everybody that gets close. Story time of how my mom kicked me out at age 15 because she found out I was dating a mixed boy. So basically, my mom wasn't strict at all, and she let me do almost anything that I wanted. But when it came to dating, it was a whole different story. She let me start dating at 12 years old, but every single time I told her I had a boyfriend, the first thing that she would say is, "He better be white." And she'd always say, "If it ain't white, it ain't right." Mind you, my preference was mixed and dark-skinned boys. So of course, I'm going to go after to what I'm attracted to. And at 14, I started dating this kid, and I asked my mom if I could invite my boyfriend to my birthday. We weren't really doing anything big. It was kind of just like a family party with a couple friends. And she said yes. Mind you, she had never met him or seen a picture of him, so she was kind of excited to meet him. So my birthday comes around, and he gets there. And as soon as he walked into the door, I gave him a big hug, and my mom turned around and gave me the most evil look ever. She pulled me aside, and her exact words were, "Is this a joke?" And she literally said, "I trusted you enough to not bring this kind of hood in our house." I'm running out of time for this part 2. Part 2 of how my mom kicked me out at age 15 because she found out I was dating a mixed boy. Continuing with the story, after the party, I had asked him to stay for an hour or 2 later. And afterwards, my mom was just being completely rude the entire time towards him. And right in front of him, she screamed at me and said, "I don't want this type of black trash in my house. Please get it out." Mind you, I hate disrespecting my mom, and I never talked back to her. But I yelled back at her and said that was the most disrespectful thing she could have ever said. And while all this is happening, he looks like he's about to bust into tears. I genuinely know this kid had a soft spot for me. So I apologize, and I tell him I think it's best for him to leave. And afterwards, he FaceTimes me, and he tells me that he will do anything to be able to keep me. And after he leaves, my mom tells me that I'm a big disgrace to the family, and she doesn't want me living there no more. All over me bringing a mixed guy to the house. I'm now 19, and I'm still with him. And I really haven't talked to my mom since. But that day, she kicked me out, and I had to go stay with his family. She still wants nothing to do with me because I'm still with a mixed guy. Mom, if you're listening to this, you're a racist